Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Joining us tonight, it is Max Rayman from District on Deck. We were talking about the Nationals' last two games against Colorado Rockies. They lost them both. There are things to take that are positive and negative from those games, and also a conversation about the YouTube broadcast that we saw today. That's coming up and more on the show.
Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Joining us, it is Max Rayman from District on Deck. Max, always a pleasure. We'll keep this quick because I know, just like myself, you are patiently awaiting the start of Game 2 of the Capitals and Panthers series.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me back, man. And yeah, I'm shocked because I don't think anyone really expected the Caps to win Game 1, and we're playing with house money at this point. So, I'm very excited for tonight.
Good things took a turn. I thought they were getting their ass kicked in that game. Things took a turn, but they're up 1-0. It's good to see. They got home ice back. We're talking Nationals today. So they lose the last two games of the series. We'll talk about that in a second. I think the upshot is, look, they've played 6 games on the road against two teams that are, they're both above 500 and both pretty good home teams. They're actually, and the Nats are 500, right? They're 3-3 in those games. So, all things considered, not bad, not bad. Actually, I think most teams would take this so far. The one thing we have to talk about today was the YouTube broadcast. So this is the second time this year, I think it's just the second time this year, the Nationals have been on a broadcast that is not a standard baseball one. So by that, I mean ESPN or local television, right? They had the Apple TV game against the Mets. Two of the Apple TV games. It was the second one was the Giants on Friday night, and then they have had the YouTube game, which was actually their first YouTube game of the year. So, a couple things. They've had some bad luck because they were the first Apple TV game, and there were some problems with that broadcast. But I'll actually excuse that because it's their first time. This might be YouTube's first broadcast of the year, but it was not a good one. I tweeted this out. The screen was tinted dark. Did you get the green specks on your
purple,
screen?
and then
mine
sometimes
would cut
it's
out.
Black. Yep.
Right. I would lose audio feed as well. And Scott Braun is somebody I actually, know he went to the same broadcasting camp that I went to. I thought he and Yonder Alonso were really good as a commentary team. I think they are good when I watch those games. But this can't happen. You've been doing this already for a while. First game of the year, I had YouTube even tweet at me. I tweeted about this to ask other people about it. YouTube tweeted at me and said they're going to look into it. Hey, guys, it's your broadcast crew. You've been doing this for a while. This isn't some my YouTube videos are showing up black. I can't watch my, David Dobrik. No, these are live broadcast issues, but this should have been ironed out. This can't happen in your first game, Max.
Absolutely not. One of the Fanside writers I work with, we're in a group chat together, and he lives in Colorado, and he's a Rockies fan. He messaged us, and he goes, I can test it's actually a sunny, gorgeous day in Denver, but I've been asked by several people if it's dark and cloudy, going to show how bad the visual quality of the broadcast was.
That's crazy too. And I texted a group chat of my own, and I said, "Hey, can anybody else check the Nats game?" That's why I tweeted it out too. I said, "Hey, let me know. Is it just my end?" And it was. And that was I turned it on at the game started a little bit, finishing up some work, but it got worse from there.
Yeah.
We appreciate MLB trying to get into these new broadcast spaces, right? This is where the game is headed. Especially, I love YouTube doing these games. You know why? They're free. More people, more eyes on more teams for no cost, except your internet or your LTE or whatever it is you watch on. I think that's something that we're all we're all for. I'm not some old head here being like, give me my linear cable, give it, I want my MASN every single day. No, you know what? I don't think we can at all be upset with free baseball, more visibility, especially for some folks who are out of market and might not want to pay for watching their team. If you're a Nats fan, like you mentioned, to Colorado or whatever, right? Nats fans are everywhere. Guys, people in the UK as well have hit me up on Twitter. It's great. Get the damn broadcast right. You had months to wait for it. This, like, I don't want to hear any. There's actually no excuse for this low broadcast quality today when you had months since your last game. It's not like we're doing back to backs here.
And the Nats were on YouTube a few times last year, and I actually enjoyed the broadcast. I don't remember
I did.
having any problems. So I don't know what to say. It was not fun for that. Like, and usually if you have problems, you get them ironed out. It got worse as the game went on.
Yes.
More it would cut out, more purple, more green. I was
More
just like,
black.
my TV's having a seizure. Like a few times, my
Right.
dad was looking at me. I'm like, yo, dad, that's not us. Like, that's them.
Right. Well, I would because I tried it on my computer screen as I see you right now, on the same screen as this,
Mhm.
which can be dark sometimes. So I said, "All right, let me go to TV," and I jacked the brightness up, and it still looked like a cloudy day, like you all had mentioned. So YouTube, clean it up. All right, clean it up. That's all we're saying. All right, Max, quick word from our sponsors. Let's talk about them. We'll talk about the Nationals. Their back-to-back losses, which we're not super angry about, but I've got some thoughts. Today's show is brought to you by Blue Nile. Guys, Mother's Day coming up here. We're up against the clock. Go to BlueNile.com to get her a beautiful, beautiful piece of fine jewelry, tennis bracelet, ring, necklace, white for a wife, grandmother, mother, mother-in-law, whoever it is. You guys can find it at Blue Nile and BlueNile.com right now. Locked On listeners get $50 off a $500 purchase. Excuse me. It's a podcast exclusive. You use the promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, Locked On, to receive $50 off a $500 purchase today at BlueNile.com. All right, Max. So let's start with today. We'll work backwards. A 9-7 loss for the Nationals, who are now 9-18, but they're 6-7 away. So actually been around 500. And you know, the fact they played at Coors Field, it's a tough place to win. So you and I last talked about Alcides Escobar versus
Luis Garcia.
Luis Garcia. And so I think the one thing that Luis Garcia did not have that Alcides had is kind of the veteran presence plus the defense. Well, today and yesterday, the defense, not really a notch in Alcides Escobar's belt, has it been?
No, not at all. 3 errors in 24 hours. We'll talk about it later, but he single-handedly cost the Nats the game last night, with two, and, and then today he had one, and who knows what happens. So you get the Nats. I believe there's a runner on second or third, right, and it's hit to the shortstop. Alcides Escobar can't make play at first. Everyone's safe. Next guy hits a 3-run homer. Should have been a routine play. Guy at the plate should have been out first, should have been runner on third. And then who knows? Because the next guy that comes up to bat, you're pitching him differently with runner on third compared to the runners on the corners. And
Right.
you may or may not pitch to him. You may or may not go in and out. That you have no idea. You don't know if that homer is going to happen. And even if the homer does happen, that's one run less run that scores. But that whole at bat goes differently. That inning goes differently. But Alcides Escobar cannot make the play again. He I saw a Jesse Doty stat about how he's the only player with OPS at a certain level and like 5 or 6 errors in baseball, and it's just you just can't have that.
I agree, and so that's why, you know, it goes to our conversation of you don't want to put too much pressure on a guy. But I think last week when you and I talked, we were under the assumption that Alcides Escobar would not be kicking the ball around the infield and cost the Nationals games. Now, look, like I don't, you know, costing them games like once that starts going, that's when I say, okay, bring up the guy, right? Because the whole point is you're trying this year, you're trying to facilitate a winning culture, right? You're trying to
Mm-hmm.
see which guys can help you facilitate and grow the winning culture, or which guys could be flipped into prospects to help you, you know, potentially build a winning culture down the line, right? You know, maybe a Michael Franco is a guy that you could go either way. Hey, is this a guy who's worth signing for cheap down the line if he keeps playing this way? This guy worth turning into something else if a team has a need. That's what we're talking about here. If you're kicking the ball around and you're not hitting, you know, well, he's a pretty slim guy, but if you're, you know, I actually he's definitely hitting his weight. But if you're hitting, you know, below 200, I mean, maybe it is worth that talk that we just had last week once again, right? The OPS low, the errors high. Do you think that might be a conversation worth revisiting like we had last week? Or do you think, hey, let's still hold the brakes just for Luis Garcia's development's sake?
They're gonna hold the brakes for development, but what they're also doing, which they're never going to admit to, is they're manipulating his service time. If he's held down for a few more weeks, this year doesn't count. Even though his time technically already started, but because he got sent back to the minors, it paused. I believe that's how it works. So they're manipulating this year. They have an extra year of Garcia, so they can have 5 years instead of 4, and that's what they're doing. He'll probably be up at. So if I believe he has to wait like the rest of this month, and then he'll be good. So don't be surprised if you see him in June, which is after when the service time manipulation is over. I hate it. Everyone hates it, but there's nothing you can do. The rules for the CBA to fix it don't kick in until next year. And I don't even know if they fixed it that much. So that is one thing that they're working on. Is I've been seeing it. People, Nats fans talk about it in the rules and everything. I'm like, that makes way too much sense. I can't believe they're doing it, but at the same time, does not shock me. And speaking of Luis Garcia, the Red Wings are currently playing, and he has a homer and a triple.
Cycle. Well, we
Cycle
might
watch.
post this.
Cycle watch.
Cycle,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the 2 hardest parts down. Wow, he's a cycle.
And
see, this is why if he keeps because Max, you and I were. I felt like last week you and I were in lockstep, right? Like you and I were like, okay, let's wait. But like today, maybe on both ends might be one of those things. Like, man, were we right?
and
Like,
it's the fifth inning.
I'm not sure if we were right, and that's okay. I think once again, the service time manipulation. Great point.
I think we were right because everything we said was true. Like,
right.
He needs to work on his defense. You're not trying to rush him. You're not trying to stint his development for the rest of the year. The Nats aren't competing for anything. So it's not worth risking his defense. But at the same time, you don't want to watch a guy out there commit errors that single-handedly cost the team a game. And I get that. There's other options besides Escobar and calling up Garcia. G. Strange Gordon's back. He didn't look awful. You could always put him at shortstop, and you
did
could
not
put
look
Escobar
awful, which is like that's kind of what the Nats. That's their standard of the Nats. Didn't look
Escobar
awful.
back on the bench. I'd rather have
right.
Garcia. Another option. Just play with 8 players.
just do a shift.
That's permanent shift. Pull in one of the outfielders.
Shift, right?
You put Soto in the middle of the outfield. You put Thomas and Robles, your 2 fastest guys in the outfield, and you just let them roll.
Also, so we're crushing we're crushing Alcides Escobar, but one guy who's on the hook for today's 2-run loss is Juan Soto, right? The pickoff at third, in my opinion, Max, pretty inexcusable, right?
It was terrible.
I think this is one of those moments where, he might be a $450 million player. He's also a kid. He's also, a few years
23.
younger than both of us too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a I'm kind of pressing in a way, getting, not totally locked in, right? Not all the way around focused on the job and the task at hand, because you take away the error, you take away the pickoff, right? Tie ball game.
The very next guy, Yadiel had a base hit right after the pickoff. He would have scored.
And especially great point there with Yadiel, right? A guy who has been money at the plate so far this year, red hot. He's just been hitting everything his way. I love how aggressive he is. Even the at-bats where it doesn't work out for him, I love how aggressive he is. He's the one guy in the offense besides Josh Bell just trying to make shit happen.
Yeah, I love that. Single-handedly, that. They kept the offense going today. I mean, granted, other guys finally showed up, but those two for the Giants series and now this, they were the 2 main contributors for why they beat the Giants.
Some team is going to call the Nats needing just being like, we see Yadiel in our 7 hole. We'll give you guys this guy because he'll help us win, right? I think that's coming for. I mean,
Nats Twitter is so torn on Yadiel. Half of them want to trade him for prospects, and the other half keep pointing out, but he has 4 to 5 years of team control.
He's 34.
That's my question for you. When does team control not matter at what age? Because I agree.
I think that's an asset on the trade end, right? It's an asset because, hey, that team gets to bring him back next year and can be a nice bat in the bottom of their lineup. Because we saw it last year. Even if he's not hitting for average, he can be a threat, right? This is a guy that, okay, there's somebody on third, there's an out. He'll probably hit a fly ball to the outfield. He'll probably drive in the run in some way, shape, or form. The guy also does have a bit of power.
That
I think
Cubs,
he's a great asset.
that Cubs game last year where I forgot what's his face on the Cubs, where he and Yadiel combined for 5 homers, and they just took turns hitting bomb after bomb after bomb.
Yeah, I was at that game. That was the walk-off game, right?
And he and Yadiel were just going back and forth, just hitting
Who was
moonshots.
it?
It was
I
a guy
forget
like
the guy in
never
the
heard of.
Cubs.
It started with like
Right,
an
some
O.
random dude. I was like these two. The Yadiel. Yeah, I was actually at that game. It's good. It's a good point to make. Let's talk. So the offense was pretty good, but at Coors Field, you kind of expect
Yeah, it
that.
gets boosted.
It gets boosted. The good news is every guy in the Nats lineup got a hit today. I'm not sure how many times we've said that during the course of the season. So let's talk about Corbin yesterday.
Oh my
Like
god! So,
a weird complete game, right? So he gets the 3 earned runs, 2 unearned. Thank you, Alcides Escobar, right? And then we turn our attention, really just towards him now. After that, but like this is back-to-back decent starts. Now, is it anywhere near what he needs to be? No. Is it progress? Right? Like the fact that I'm like, hey, Max, what do you think of a $25 million player having decent back-to-back starts? Isn't that great? The fact that we're having this conversation is bad, but at the same time, the results, they are somewhat encouraging.
so it's funny. When I went to message you today about the game, I saw that my very last message from you was from Patrick Corbin's last start over a week ago, and it was the same exact thing where you and I were talking about how Alcides Escobar's defense cost Patrick Corbin multiple runs, and the same thing happened again last night. It was like clockwork.
It's consistency, right? I mean, Corbin
Not the
pitches
type of consistency. What?
and Yadiel gives him the job. No, I will say the last 2
Ah,
losses for Patrick, right?
not
6
his
innings,
fault.
4 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 2 walks, 8 Ks against the Marlins. A little bit lighter on the K side, but look, we've been clamoring all year for starters to give length. What did he do last night? Now I know there was no 9th innings, and I know I'm not sure if he would have come out for the 9th. But if there was a 9th, it probably would not have. But still, the guy gave him length and also 3 earned runs over the course of 8 innings. That should keep your team competitive, right? That's a good start. Now, once again, we I have to reiterate, this guy's getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah, no.
But with context, he has really struggled. I mean, it's been a absolute struggle. But last night was vintage Patrick Corbin. A lot of hits, but limited the damage in terms of, should have limited it more because of the errors once again. But
It
in
should have been
terms of the
0 runs.
actual, right, in terms of the actual damage, like nobody can be frustrated with what he did last night,
No.
correct?
No, not at all. The only people who were frustrated are the people that didn't watch the game and only looked at the box score and were like, wow, Corbin got a loss. Wow, Corbin gave up runs. No, Alcides Escobar turned what should have been an inning-ending double play into 5 runs and single-handedly cost him the game. Like that was, and he even said it after the game. He knew it was his fault. There was no one else to blame last night. He was the only one that made that play. And because of that, the second ball that's hit in the gap, Victor Robles saw what happened and he tries to play hero ball and he misses, which is not his fault because he feels pressured because he sees what Corbin's going through and he sees the defense not showing up and already having 3 errors. And he felt pressure in the dive when he maybe would have played it on a hop and he missed and 2 more runs scored.
And look, like, so do you remember the Pirates game where Corbin pitched and the Nats tweeted out like he's kept us in the game or he gave us a chance to win? I forget what it was. We've made fun of that, but like, all kidding aside, last night was knocked the mic away. Last night was that. Patrick Corbin makes me so demonstrative of knocking the mic away, but that last night was that, right? Like you're on the road in a place where runs are just silly, right? It's silly season with runs in at Coors Field, and he gave you a chance to win the game. That's and pitch a complete game while doing it. Like that is a $24 million performance at Coors Field, right? That's in my opinion, he actually pitched to his worth last night. Like that was now the problem is it's been rare, but he did that.
2 starts in a row that were very promising. Something else that he did. Entering today, the Nats bullpen is 8th in innings pitched with 102. 102 and 2/3. He single-handedly gave the Nats bullpen a very much needed night off last night.
The unscheduled,
Mhm.
The
Unscheduled
unscheduled
off
off
day.
day, right? Let's just call it like that. All right, quick word from our sponsors. Then we'll look at the series coming up for the Nationals. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Athletic Greens. One scoop into cold water every single morning. Your attention to detail will improve. Your gut health will improve, and there's no extra crap in there. It's good for keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, gluten free. Athletic Greens has you covered. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D. My dog came over. He heard Athletic Greens. He said, yes, let the people know. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com slash MLB network. That's athleticgreens.com slash MLB network. Again, athleticgreens.com slash MLB network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs of Athletic Greens. Once again, athleticgreens.com slash MLB network today. Also, today's show brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. NHL playoffs. Who would bet the over on goals tonight for Nationals, for Capitals and Panthers? You want to bet on Pittsburgh, the hated Penguins to be. Oh, I hate both the Penguins and the Rangers actually, so I don't really care who wins that series. I hope nobody wins that series. If you want to bet on nobody winning the series, they might not give you odds, but you can bet on either one of those teams over at BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. F1 in Miami this week, NASCAR wherever they are, boxing, UFC, pay-per-view this week for the UFC. You can bet on all of it. Best odds, best place to go. BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. All right, Max, National Series coming up now, the end of the road trip. And they get to go to Anaheim to play the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Real
It's
quick,
so hot.
just what? Yeah, hey, look. I watched. I caught a little bit of it today. The highlights of it. I mean, holy hell, Shohei
Yeah.
Ohtani, man, he was on fire today. But I think it's. I think I love these series. I love the fact that we have more interleague now. Great opportunity to see a team. The Nats don't get to see that often.
Yeah, I wish it was at home. I would love to see Anthony Rendon get a standing ovation. I would love to
Oh,
be able to go see
good lord!
Ohtani and Mike Trout in person. I've seen Mike Trout play in person once at the All-Star game in DC. I've yet to see any of these other like big name guys because with the West Coast AL teams like barely coming to DC. So it would have been awesome to see him. But I'd love to watch him on TV. Thank God Ohtani pitched today and we don't have to deal with that. Like, granted, we still have to
Right.
deal with his bat and he's going to burn us, but thank God he's not going to pitch against us.
It's pretty lucky, isn't it? I mean, he looks great, and what an ambassador for the game. I love watching him, man. It's absolutely joy. We'll see him in the lineup though. It's always nice. And look,
Mhm.
I wish they. I am totally for less division games and more interleague. I can't express to you like, look, do I love the division rivalries and how hotly contested it is that we are at the end of the year? Sure, I'm sure you love it too. I'm sure a lot of the fans out there love it too. But like, I would trade 4 games the Mets for 3 with the Angels, or 4 with the Angels, or I would trade an extra 3 with. I think a lot of us would trade 3 with the Marlins for games elsewhere too, right? I'd rather see the Nationals go and play somebody, Seattle and Seattle.
Mhm.
Go play, pick
The
your
White Sox.
the White Sox at guaranteed rate in the middle of the summer. Maybe an excuse to go take a trip to Chicago during the summertime. Hell yeah. I think we'd all be for that. So can we shave 3 games off each divisional team that we play and toss me 3 in Texas, 3, I love Nats fans love to see 3 in Houston, right? I mean, how much we'd love to see those guys, chance to remind everybody
More
on Twitter, no matter what
more
happens in those
Nats,
games.
more Nats Orioles.
Right. Or Nats, hey, play the Orioles, hell, 7
That
times a
would be
year, right?
fun. For us
Yeah.
people that live by the Beltway, it's just like your backyard, close game.
Right. And those are always, I mean, I love those games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
They're
you've been to
so
some of
much
those.
fun.
They're always
Yeah.
so much fun to go to. Great atmosphere, always a buzz at those games. Just, and once again, 2 really good sports cities, that have a good understanding of each other too. So, um, you know, I think the big message here is I'm not even talking about in terms of plays. Just enjoy these series, right? Just
Yeah.
enjoy. The Nationals are playing Anaheim. Doesn't happen very often, right? Nats versus Mike Trout.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to watch Trout, Ohtani, Rendon? I mean, I'm looking it up right now. They don't have, as of now on ESPN, they don't have a pitcher for tomorrow.
I saw,
Noah
yeah.
Syndergaard is scheduled after us, thankfully, because we don't have the best of luck
He's
against
been
him.
awesome so far this year too.
Good for him. He hasn't pitched since 19, so I'm glad to see a healthy Syndergaard. Lorenzen and Sandoval, who's been solid, are both scheduled to pitch against Yonadone, Josiah Gray, and Fetty. That's the game I'm looking forward to the most, watching Josiah Gray face off against some of the best hitters in baseball. You've touted him as the future of the Nats rotation. Time to give him one of the biggest challenges there is. So I'd love to see how he does against this.
And each start for him is must-see TV. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're a Nats fan, it's must-see because this guy is learning on the job and learning in some impressive ways. And every mistake from him is not a negative. It feels like a lesson. That's kind of where I'm at, Max. I'm not sure. Do you agree on that point?
No,
It
I do.
feels
And
like it feels like he's learning, not failing.
I mean, a year ago, you and I were saying the big thing he needed to work on was the secondary pitches, right? His secondary pitches are so crisp this year. His slider and his curveball, he's mixing them well. They're complementing his mid-90s fastball. And when in the last year, whenever he would give up that early run or early base runner, it would just snowball. Nowadays, Josiah
Right.
Gray is pitching out of jams. He's helping himself out. 10 strikeouts against the Giants. Like, how are you? Like, that's awesome. He's looking great, and he's not hanging his head. He's not losing confidence, and he's living for the challenge, which they haven't had since, Strasburg and Scherzer and Corbin in their primes and stuff like that. And it brings a breath of fresh air to a baseball team that's in the middle of a rebuild.
And you saw him today. He did that interview in the middle of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the way this kid carries himself. There is not an arrogance, but a confidence of where he's come from. And I think it's an earned one. It's not a long time in the league, right? And he's still learning lessons. And sometimes it's through small failures. I would call them small failures that are big
Mm-hmm.
lessons, I guess is the way I'd pitch it. I love the demeanor. I think this is a guy that this has to be a player they have to. Like, I want more guys to adopt his attitude and his approach.
I think the worst part about that interview was the fact that the Nats had long at bats and innings, and the Josiah Gray interview happened to be the one inning where they just were like mowed down. I was like, that's so unfortunate. I wanted to hear
Right,
more from
quick.
him. I wanted to get 5, 6, 7
It
guys
was
up
too
to the
quick.
plate
Yeah.
just to pick. It was just bam. I was like, oh, and he didn't even realize they were done. He was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because he wanted to talk. He wanted to keep going. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. He likes to
You
share. And
saw
he's young and excited.
Kyle Freeland had triple the amount of speaking time that he did. Vinny Castilla had triple the amount of speaking time that he did, and Josiah Gray barely got to say hi and answer like 2 questions.
Still, so if you guys haven't seen much of him talk, you guys can find other interviews with him too. He projecting wise, like, he gets it. The kid he's a kid, but he gets it. He gets what
He's
he's saying.
acting older than 23 or 24,
Yeah.
however old he is. He
But has the
holds himself
confidence
higher.
of a young
Yeah.
of a young gun, which I love to see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Max. Always love talking to you, man. Where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
Check us out, Just on Deck on Twitter. Talk about the Nats. Check me out on Twitter, Max and Raymond. Talk about DC sports. Talk about how the Capitals are playing out of their mind right now. And once again, man, thanks for having
Yes.
me back.
CAPS, caps. Let's go. All right, you guys can find me on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_. Find the show at LO Nationals, wherever you guys get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well. Max, we'll talk to you soon.